What's going on, guys? Jeff's Reeftank here with an update on my 300-gallon system. Today I wanted to start with the frag tank here. As some of you may know, I gave it on my last update. I did go to a New England frag swap and up in Connecticut roughly a month ago, and I picked up a bunch of frags and some high-end frags and some really nice mini colonies. So what's been happening since then, I'm not sure if you guys can see, and simple things like this purple stylo here hasn't been looking the same as when I picked it up, meaning a lot of the polyps have been retracted. So not sure why and what was going on. I did notice I lost a couple of like 4 or 5 frags, smaller frags, but zooming into these here, you could probably see the white tips on the frag to the left, and then this middle guy here was the absolute bushiest of them all. A lot of polyp extension like I've never seen before, but you can see on the tips there, it seems to be receding a bunch. So I took them out, I dipped them along with a couple other frags, and I did notice some pests on them. So basically what I picked up, it looks like there may have been some flatworms that I picked up on one of the other frags. I ended up just tossing it just to be safe. But these guys here, I'm not sure what it is, but some of them seem to be receding from the bottom up, and others are right like I'm trying to show here. There's white tips, so it's definitely not growth. There's definitely a difference, and the fact that the polyps are retracted leads me to believe that it may be something that is more than just flatworms. I'm hoping not, but I'm suspecting possibly red bugs as well. So as you can see, got some nice pieces here. Walt Disney, all say these frags right here, they all seem to be doing well. No sign of polyp retraction, and looking pretty healthy. So this guy over here, this green stylo as well, but the purple one's been going in and out, meaning the polyps have been retracted and then expanding again. Got some nice pieces here. This guy here in the middle, on the base, I'm not sure, to the left and to the top, I'm sorry, to the top right and bottom right, that wasn't like that a few days ago, meaning that it's starting to lose tissue on the bottom, so I'm gonna have to dip him as well. But my main concern is if it is red bugs, that's a big issue. So I don't see any, and I'm not sure why something as hardy as a purple stylo would be retracting its polyps throughout the day, several times throughout the day. So I have to do a little more research in this, but worst case scenario, I may be losing all of these frags unless I decide to try to treat the quarantine tank. But this is one of the reasons why I definitely do quarantine. You know, my 300-gallon there is something that I don't want to risk getting anything in it, but this is a lot of money worth of corals now, and quite honestly a lot of time as well. It was just almost 7 hours worth of driving just to get up to that frag swap, and you know, I picked up some really select pieces, some nice pieces, starting to go with a little higher end as well now. And maybe it's too many for the frag tank. It's a 20-gallon, or I'm not sure exactly what I could have done differently, but to have this whole thing shut down and have to restart it and lose all these frags because it's not worth putting into the main is a concern for me. But yeah, so that's the update for my frag system. Fingers crossed. I'm going to continue to observe and dip, and I will keep you guys posted on that. As far as the main display, things have been, as far as growth, things have been coming along well. As you can see here, the base of this colony last month was not covered in coral, but it's starting to base out, and you can even see as soon as this guy stops photobombing us, there are some tips on the base as well, so it's starting to branch out as well. Most of the corals look healthy. did lose like 7 or 8 of them from the transition. And going through this update and looking at my tank a little closer after my last month's update, I did notice something that's a familiar sign and something that I've been fighting with for a while before. Yes, it is hair algae. So most of the tank is fine, but there are some areas where it definitely is starting to show some signs. Not sure if you guys can see, all these cores are finally looking beautiful, and then we got this hair algae issue coming back up. I did mention that I started feeding a little differently, a lot more fish and a lot more feeding. I did start with pellets. When I went away roughly 2 months ago, I had a tank sitter and was starting to feed some pellets, and thinking that that gave it too much nutrients. So what I'm have to do now is just observe it. So roughly 2 weeks ago, I did notice that some of the the live rock was green, and within a week or so I noticed that it was hair algae. So it's not horrendous, but it is here, and I'm gonna pick this guy back up. So it's something I have to see what I'm gonna do about it and how I'm gonna address it, because I definitely do have a bigger bio load here. I have more fish to feed, so just want to see what the next steps are, possibly how to handle this hair algae. But it hasn't been expanding from the points where it did sprout up, so it got longer, but it didn't continue to spread out and cover more rock. So what I'm going to try to do is lower the feeding as much as possible. I was feeding a full sheet of nori at one point every day, and that's back down to a half a sheet every other day. So but you could probably see here, I mean, everything looks beautiful. It's finally starting to come together, and if you look under this rock here, you can see some of the branch rock. There is definitely hair algae showing up. So other than that, everything else looks good, no major issues. So one of those things where I have to really don't want to rip out this rockscape and scrub it and have to put it back, or I'm not using any peroxide or anything like that, but it's something I have to make a decision on how to handle it. I'm going to watch it for the next couple of weeks to see if it starts to get out of control, which I'm hoping it won't. I did a couple of water changes, 80, 90 gallons worth of water changes after I saw the first signs. The refugium is definitely picking up more, and the Cato is growing faster, so hopefully that's a good sign. I'll be removing some of that as well, just to make sure I get the nutrients out of the tank. But yeah, so other than that, final update on this tank is, I'm not sure if anybody noticed, but there is a fish missing. The Achilles tang seemed to have gotten ick along with the powder blue. See if I can zoom in on this guy a little bit more. They both seem to continue to be okay. No major issues from what I could tell. But then, like a week ago, the powder blues was fine, but the Achilles stopped eating. So 2 days later, came to the tank in the morning and saw that the Achilles is gone. So I think it had a lot to do with just having the same type of tang in your tank. Powder blue was definitely going after the Achilles, and the Achilles were going after the powder blue. So I think it's just having the same type of tang in the tank. I introduced them at both at the same time. I quarantined them as well. No signs of any ick or anything like that when they were in the QT tanks. But put them in the main, and they started going at each other. So and you know, to try to combat that, you also feed a little bit more, make sure everybody has enough food. And here comes our buddy hair algae. So yeah, so that's basically the update for April. Other than that, believe it or not, I'm pretty happy with the tank. It's just this one issue I have to make sure I don't let get out of hand, and you know, once I get it back under control, I will not be introducing any more tangs to the tank for a good while. Let everything settle in. I think the tang gang is big enough as it is. I have 2 yellow, 1 powder blue, a hippo, a naso. I got the cold tang over here doing his work. I have the yellow-headed goby doing his work. He's stirring up the sand, which is beautiful. So I do have a bunch of workers in here as well. Antheus are doing nicely. I have 3 of them, and I think this guy's, the larger one, is actually turning into a male. So that's going to be cool to see the transition. Chromis, I had a bunch of them, but I think it's down to like 6 of them now. So for some reason they seem to die off one by one when you have a lot of them in a tank. But got a Bangui cardinal here, little guy. Got my 2 clowns. Seem to be a mated pair now. And yeah, so that's about it. There are roughly around 20 fish in the tank. And I love this lawnmower. He stays picking at the rock and the glass and everything. So I think they're helping a lot as far as keeping everything at bay. So I just have to watch what I'm doing, what I'm adding, how much I'm adding, and yeah, just keeping on top of things. I do roughly around 44 gallon water change every 3 weeks. So nutrients, of course, at 0 nitrate, 0 phosphate, but goes to show you that doesn't mean that there's 0 in the tank. So just making sure I get the exports done a little more frequently as far as the filter stocks as well. I'm taking them out instead of once a week, which they were pretty much overflowing. I'm cutting that time in half and doing it twice as fast, twice as frequently, should I say. So yeah, we'll see if all that works. And like the first time with the algae, I definitely stopped, reduced the amount of nutrients that were imported into the tank, and it started to die off and pretty much went away by itself. So I'm hoping that's going to be the case here, even though I have increased bioload, but I definitely have increased the corals that are in the tank as well. Before there was no corals, now it's a decent amount of coral in the tank. So with the uptake of the corals and cutting back on some of the feeding and making sure the refugium is going well, I think I'll be all right. So that's the latest update for this month, guys, and I'll see you next month.